The perfect pattern. In Chapter 4, we quoted Bauduin to show how a person can hypnotize himself into health, happiness, and success. This is not as foolish as it sounds, for self-hypnosis is nothing more nor less than deep concentration, and it is a well-known fact that we go in the direction of our thoughts. What we long for, or dread, or fear that we are headed towards. You see, man is inseparable from the creative force. God has incarnated himself in man, and God is dynamic, not static. He cannot be shut up. He must be expressed in one way or another. We put his power into all that we do, whether towards failure or success. How then can we use this creative power for good? How can we put it into our efforts towards success? First, by convincing ourselves that we are successful, that we are on the road to riches or health or power. We must believe that we receive. And the quickest, easiest, surest way to do this is through repetition. It is now generally known and accepted that one comes to believe whatever one repeats to oneself sufficiently often, whether the statement is true or false. It comes to be the dominating thought in one's mind. Such thoughts, when mixed with a strong feeling of desire or emotion, become a magnet that attracts all about similar or related thoughts. They attract a host of their relatives, which they add to their own magnetic power until they become the dominating, motivating master of the individual. Then the second law begins to work. All impulses of thought have a tendency to clothe themselves in their physical equivalent. In other words, if the dominating thought in your mind is riches, that thought will tend to draw to your opportunities for riches that you never dreamed of. Just as the magnet attracts iron, so will you attract money and ways of making more money. Or if health is your dominating thought, ways and means of winning new health and strength will come to you. The same is true of love, happiness, or anything you may greatly desire in life. On the other hand, if you fill your mind with fear, doubt, and unbelief in your ability to use the forces of infinite intelligence, these, in turn, will become your dominating thought and form the pattern for your life. You will be lifted up, or pulled down, according to the pattern of your thought. There are no limitations upon the creative force working through you. The limitations are all in you, and they are all self-imposed. Riches and poverty are equally the offspring of your thought. So if you desire anything of good, the first and most important thing you must do is to develop your faith that you can have that good. Faith, like any other state of mind, can be induced by suggestion, by repetition. Tell yourself often enough that you have faith, and you will have it, for any thought that is passed on to the subconscious often enough and convincingly enough is finally accepted, and then translated into its physical equivalent by the most practical method available. You remember the story of the king who felt that his child, if brought up in the court, would be spoiled by overmuch attention. So he put him in the family of an honest peasant and had him raised as the peasant's own child. The boy had all the power, all the riches of the kingdom at his disposal, yet he knew it not. He was a great prince, yet because he knew nothing of it, he worked and lived as a lowly peasant. Most of us are like that young prince, in that we are ignorant of our divine parentage. We know nothing of the power that is ours, so we get no good from it. God is working through us, and there is nothing he cannot do, yet because we know nothing of him, we are powerless. There is no such thing as a human nobody. All have the divine spark in them, all can kindle it into a glowing flame through faith. People let themselves be hypnotized by fear and anxiety, fear of poverty, failure, or disease. They continually visualize these, and thus make them their dominant thought, using it as a magnet to draw these things to them. Whatever form your thoughts and beliefs take, the creative force working through you uses you as a mold in which to form your life and your surroundings. If you want to be strong, think of yourself as perfect. If you want to be prosperous, think not of debts and lacks, but of riches and opportunity. We go in the direction of our dominating thought. It strikes the keynote of our life song. The chief characteristic of the religion of the future, wrote Dr. Eliot, will be man's inseparableness from the great creative force. We are in partnership with the fountainhead of all good. Emerson said that Christ alone estimated the greatness and the divinity of man. Christ constantly emphasized man's unlimited possibilities. He saw that God incarnated himself in man. Emerson goes on to say that man is weak when he looks for help outside himself. It is only as he throws himself unhesitatingly upon the creative force within himself that he finds the springs of success, the power that can accomplish all things. It is only when he realizes that all outside help amounts to nothing compared with the tremendous forces working through him that he stands erect and begins to work miracles. Nearly every man has a habit of looking back and saying, if I had that period of my life to live over again, if I could go back and take advantage of the chance at fortune I had then, I'd be rich and successful today. Yet a year from now, or 5 or 10 years from now, most of you who read this will be saying the same thing as today. Why? Because your future depends upon the foundations you are digging now. Yesterday is gone. There is no recalling it. And tomorrow has not come. The only time you have to work with is right now, and whether you will go up or down tomorrow, whether you will be rich or a failure, depends upon your thoughts today. It took mankind thousands of years to learn how to control matter, how to provide comfort and safety and some degree of financial security. It has taken less than a generation to learn how to control one's own future. The knowledge is so new that most people are not yet aware of it. As David Seabury put it in his book, they know that science and mechanics have made over the face of the earth. They do not know that psychology and its kindred sciences are making a like change in man's handling of his own nature. Do you know why so few people succeed in life? Because it is so easy that most people cannot believe in the methods that really make men successful. They prefer to look upon success as something arduous, something practically impossible for them to attain, and by looking upon it that way, they make it so for themselves. You can have what you want if you know how to plant the seeds of it in your thought. To know that is the most important thing that anyone can learn. It is not fate that bars your path. It is not lack of money or opportunity. It is yourself, your attitude towards life. Change it and you change all. Ask yourself this important question: are you a victim of self-pity? Are you embittered at life and at those more successful than yourself? Do you think fortune has played you a scurvy trick? Or are you cheerfully, steadfastly, confidently working out ways of meeting and bettering the situations that life presents to you? Most people will dodge that question. They are more concerned with defending their ego and putting the blame for their failures on something outside themselves than they are with getting ahead. Failure comes from the inside first. It cannot be forced upon a resolute, dauntless soul. How about you? Will you give yourself an honest answer to this important question: are you a victim of self-pity? Think of the times when you have yearned for a future, when you have grown impatient with the barriers that seem to hold you down, when you have heard of the success of some acquaintance whom you knew to be inwardly no more capable than yourself. Are you willing to keep on wishing and envying and looking to the future for your success? Or will you start that success in the only time that will ever be yours to work with the everlasting now? Remember what Emerson told us: there is one mind common to all individual men. Every man is an inlet to the same and to all of the same. He that is once admitted to the right of reason is a freeman of the whole estate. What Plato has thought, he may think; what a saint has felt, he may feel; what has at any time befallen any man, he can understand. Who hath access to this universal mind is a party to all that is or can be done, for this is the only and sovereign agent of this universal mind. Each individual is one more incarnation. The creative force of the universe is working through you. You can be as great an outlet for it as anyone who has ever lived. You have only to provide the mold in which it is to take shape, and that mold is formed by your thoughts. What is your dominant desire? What do you want most? Believe in it and you can have it. Make it your dominating thought, magnetize your mind with it, and you will draw to you everything you need for its accomplishment. There is not a dream that may not come true, wrote Arthur Symons, if we have the energy which makes or chooses our own fate. We can always in this world get what we want if we will it intensely and persistently enough. So few people succeed because so few can conceive a great end and work towards it without deviating and without tiring. But we all know that the man who works for money day and night gets rich, and the man who works day and night for no matter what kind of material power, gets the power. It is only the dreams of those light sleepers who dream faintly that do not come true. Knowing these things, can you ever again limit yourself, when you have such unlimited possibilities? Sure, there are times when you feel inferior. Everyone does. Just remember that and realize that you are superior, one of the efficient few who take advantage of the infinite power inside them to carry you on to the heights of success. Plato held, you remember, that in the divine mind are pure forms or archetypes according to which all visible beings are made. And most of the great mystery schools of the older world held similar opinions. They taught growth by intent rather than by accident, a development from birth all through life towards the perfect image or archetype of each of us that is held in the divine mind. They visioned each of us growing into a destiny that had been imaged for him long before he was born. Progress was movement in the direction of the perfect archetype. Man became nobler as the interval between him and his perfect pattern grew less. To the Greeks, happiness meant peace between a man and his pattern, Whereas if you lived in a manner inconsistent with your archetype, you suffered from inharmonies of various kinds. They believe that it was not so much what you do that causes you to suffer, as it is the inharmony between what you do and what you should do to match your perfect pattern. There is a perfect pattern for you in the divine mind, a perfect archetype that you can match. It has perfect form, perfect intelligence, and all power necessary to make your surroundings perfect. Why not make yourself like it? You can. Just let your archetype be your model. Fill your mind with thoughts of its perfection, make it your dominant thought, and you can draw to yourself whatever elements you need to manifest that perfect image. And not merely the perfect image of yourself, but all that goes to make your surroundings and circumstances just as perfect. Remember, the only limit upon the power working through you is the limit you impose. Bear these facts in mind. 1. Your subconscious mind is constantly amenable to control by the power of suggestion. 2. Its power to reason deductively from given premises to correct conclusions is practically perfect. 3. It is endowed with a perfect memory. 4. It is the seat of your emotions. 5. It has the power to communicate and receive intelligence through other than the recognized channels of the senses. Man contains all that is needful within himself, wrote Emerson. He is made a law unto himself. All real good or evil that can befall him must be from himself. The purpose of life seems to be to acquaint a man with himself. The highest revelation is that God is in every man.